JTO Dynamics puts the average new car price in Germany at €56,735 this year. The UK average has gone past £49,451. Both figures are up roughly 60% since 2015. UBS Evidence Lab took a premium EV apart down to the last plastic bracket and priced every single interior component, everything you touch, sit on and look at from behind the wheel, at around €3,100 to build. That gap between what you're charged and what's actually inside the car is the whole story tonight. And none of it is accidental. It's engineered, costed and signed off in a spreadsheet long before the car reaches a forecourt. This channel pulled the teardown data, the supplier cost breakdowns and the named engineering admissions behind 9 specific cuts manufacturers are making on cars costing £45,000 and up. Subscribe if you want the receipts before the next model launches wearing the same tricks under new marketing. None of this is happening without a clear corporate reason sitting behind it, visible in every seat of published results this year. Porsche AG posted a Q1 2026 automotive EBITDA margin of 17.2% while deliveries actually fell 14.7%, a result management credited to disciplined pricing rather than volume. BMW Group ran a 5.0% automotive EBIT margin in the same quarter while cutting R&D spending by 11.5% and admin costs by 5.1%. Mercedes-Benz delivered €8.2 billion in adjusted EBIT for the full year, pushed its top-end range to 15% of total sales, and is targeting a further 10% cut to fixed costs by 2027. That's not an industry struggling to survive electrification. That's value over volume. Sell fewer cars, charge more for each one, protect the margin regardless of what happens to volume, and let the customers absorb the cost of standing still on quality while the sticker price keeps climbing. FEV Consulting's manufacturing cost comparison of the combustion Volkswagen Tiguan against the electric ID.4 shows exactly where that margin gets defended, and it's the clearest single number in this entire report. The Tiguan costs around €16,600 to build. The ID.4 costs around €29,000. And 83% of that extra €12,400 went straight into the battery and the powertrain, leaving a sliver for everything else the car is made of. The interior wasn't given a bigger budget to match the bigger sticker price. It was actually given a smaller one to help pay for the battery instead. Break down the powertrain versus ICE split and the pattern gets sharper still. In the UK, ICE prices climbed 29.4% between 2019 and 2024, against 16.5% for battery electric cars. In Germany, ICE prices rose 26.1% over the same period. Battery electric vehicles just 5.2%. The combustion cars, the ones without a battery to blame for the increase, have been inflated the hardest, which undercuts the industry's own explanation for where the money's going. UBS Evidence Lab's teardown comparison puts a number on exactly how little of that money reaches the cabin. There's Zone 3 costing: instrument panel, seating, headliners, trim, carpets, airbags, HVAC controls, and everything classed as interior and safety. Priced a Tesla Model 3's interior at $3,588, around €3,121. A BMW i3 came in at $3,275 or €2,849. A mass-market Chevrolet Bolt landed at $3,319, roughly €2,887, within a few $100s of a car wearing a premium German badge. On the higher trims, Monroe's own analysis put projected gross margin above 30%, built almost entirely on how aggressively the interior cost was minimized. For a car retailing at £45,000 to £55,000, that's the entire cabin. Every surface a driver's hand or eye actually meets, costing the manufacturer roughly the price of a decent second-hand hatchback. Item 1 is the seats. Genuine leather has been swapped for polyurethane and PVC across almost every mainstream Premier interior, sold back to the customer as Sensatic at BMW, Artico or MB Tex at Mercedes, or marketed broadly as vegan leather wherever a sustainability story lands better than an honest one. The financial case is blunt. Switching from hide to synthetic cuts seating manufacturer costs by 15 to 25%, and the raw materials itself run 30 to 60% cheaper per meter, because synthetic sheet comes off a continuous roll with none of the scarring or waste a real hide carries. A full leather option used to add £1,500 to £3,000 to a car's price. The manufacturer's cost for the synthetic swap is a fraction of that. BMW's current 5 Series, the G60 generation, now ships with Veganza and Sensafin synthetic trim as standard, not an option, with real leather no longer offered at the base of the range at all. The eco story isn't false. PU and PVC genuinely are petrochemical products, so it isn't wrong to call them vegan. It's just doing a marketing job that price cut couldn't do on its own, and synthetic doesn't breathe in hot weather and doesn't age into a patina. It ages into cracks. Item 2 is the switch from buttons to touchscreens. And this one has a named executive on record confirming the motive rather than leaving it to guesswork. Ferrari's own CEO, Benedetto Vigna, has stated publicly that manufacturing costs run exactly 50% lower for touch controls than traditional physical switches. Monroe & Associates teardown data backs the number up at a component level. Deleting physical AC controls alone saves a manufacturer $50 to $60 per car. Removing the wider button bank saves around $100. Multiply that across a 2 million unit production run and a manufacturer clears roughly $174 million per year in pure saved cost, just from moving climate control into a menu. Volkswagen went furthest on the ID.4. Physical climate buttons are gone entirely, replaced by unlit capacitive sliders, and the driver's door carries only 2 window switches plus a capacitive rear button that has to be tapped before you can lower a back window. Edmunds lists low-quality cabin plastics cheapen the experience as a headline complaint on that car. The safety cost is measurable, not theoretical. Swedish publication V Bilagore timed drivers completing a fixed set of cabin tasks, 10 seconds in a 2005 car with physical buttons, up to 30 seconds in a modern touchscreen heavy car like the BMW iX. That's 30 seconds with your eyes off a motorway. J.D. Power's 2026 initial quality study found infotainment was the only category to get worse industry-wide this year, and traced 46% of all distracted driver complaints directly back to touchscreens and infotainment menus. UK authority Which runs the same conclusion into its own testing, consistently marking down cars that bury basic functions inside a laggy digital menu instead of a switch. No car proves the pattern harder than the Volvo EX30. Volvo deleted the driver's instrument binnacle entirely, so even your speed runs off the central touchscreen. Physical window switches are gone from the doors, moved to 2 switches in the center console to save the cost and weight of running wiring the length of the car. Door speakers are deleted too, replaced by a single soundbar across the dash, and even the glove box needs a touchscreen submenu to open. AutoWeek called the cabin bare bones, with too much hard, cheap plastic in an aggressive bid to keep the sticker price down. UK reviewers on Which Mobility went further, describing horrible scratchy plastics on the door cards and console, and noting the car feels like a cheap Chinese vehicle exploiting a Volvo badge. Accurate, given the EX30 is built on a Geely platform in China. Audi's Q4 e-tron runs the same MEB underpinnings as the far cheaper Volkswagen ID.4 and Skoda Enyaq, and reviewers have flagged the same result: hard scratchy plastic on the upper rear door cards, on a car priced squarely against its own cheaper siblings for no material advantage in the cabin at all. The badge is carrying the price difference, the materials are not. Item 3 is piano black plastic and molded fake stitching. And this is the one with the ugliest repair bill attached. High gloss injection molded plastic is cheap to produce at scale and looks sharp under showroom lighting, which is precisely the environment it's designed to be judged in. It's also notorious for micro-scratching, dust attraction, and permanent fingerprinting within days of real ownership, well away from the showroom's diffused lighting and constant cleaning staff. The receipt? Replacing a single piano black door trim piece on a Mercedes A-Class through a UK main dealer costs £580 to £650, for a part whose actual manufacturing cost is close to nothing. The current C-Class, the W206 generation, leans on the same material across its center console, and UK reviewers have described the one-piece door pull and window panel as flexing and creaking on brand new cars, a genuine step down from W205 it replaced. Where a dashboard needs to look hand-stitched, the stitching itself is now often bumped indentations molded straight into the plastic. No thread, no upholstery labor, and a luxury look charged at a luxury price. The pattern isn't confined to one model year either. J.D. Power's 2026 Vehicle Dependability Study, which tracks 3-year-old cars, recorded an industry record 204 problems per 100 vehicles, with infotainment still the single worst category at 56.7 pp100, trim and exterior fit close behind it. The equivalent China study, built on the same global platform sold here, found infotainment, features and controls, and interior quality all got measurably worse year on year, up 5.7, 4.5 and 2.5 problems per 100 respectively, and the report's own authors warned in plain language that cost pressure under fierce competition may be directly impacting quality control. J.D. Power's Senior Director for Auto Benchmarking, Frank Hanley, put the mechanism simply. When technology becomes too complicated, the likelihood of customers experiencing a problem rises considerably. That's not a channel opinion. That's the industry's own benchmarking arm confirming what the door card creaking on a 3-year-old C-Class has already told its owner. Item 4 is the fakery you'll find at the back and sides of the car. Large chrome-ringed shapes molded into the rear bumper on plenty of premium models are blank plastic plates. The actual, much smaller exhaust pipes point straight down, hidden behind the bumper entirely. It's cheaper, gives designers total freedom over the styling, and stops soot from direct injection engines staining the paintwork. Audi has publicly committed to ending the practice on its new combustion platform after sustained consumer backlash, which tells you how widely it's been used across the rest of the €45,000 plus segment. The same logic runs indoors: door card speaker grills with no actual driver behind them, and front bumper intakes sealed shut with a plastic plate, styled purely for aggression rather than airflow. None of it is illegal and none of it is disclosed at point of sale. A buyer paying for the visual promise of performance hardware is, on a growing number of these cars, paying for a shape molded to imply it. Item 5 is the headlights. Fluted glass has been almost entirely replaced by polycarbonate plastic, lighter, cheaper to mold, and flexible enough to form the sweeping angular shapes modern styling now demands, none of which was achievable with rigid glass. The trade-off is UV degradation. Every plastic lens leaves the factory with a protective UV coating, and over 5 to 10 years that coating burns off under ordinary sunlight exposure. Once it's gone, the polycarbonate underneath starts to oxidize, yellow, and cloud from the outside in. Light output drops well before the change is obvious to the eye, which makes it a genuine safety issue rather than a cosmetic one. And because the unit is a single sealed assembly rather than a bulb and glass housing, a clouded lens can't be cleaned or repaired. The whole unit gets replaced outright, at £800 to £2,000 a corner, depending on how many sensors and adaptive LED elements are packed in behind it. A glass headlight would have lasted the life of the car. The manufacturer banks the weight and tooling saving on day one. The owner picks up the bill somewhere around year 7, usually with no warning behind a slightly dimmer motorway. Item 6 is sound deadening, and it's the cut you feel rather than see. Bitumen and mass-loaded vinyl under the carpets and inside the door skins add real weight, tens of kilograms, which drags down both fuel economy on a combustion car and the marketed range figure on an EV. So it's one of the first things value engineering teams target. The 7th generation Volkswagen Golf used 4 kilograms less insulation than its predecessor, a reduction that's now standard practice across the industry rather than an exception on one model. Active noise cancellation is meant to plug the gap electronically, using the car's own speakers to fire a counter frequency against unwanted sound. And it does a reasonable job on a steady motorway drone. It does a much worse job on a sharp pothole strike, a suspension thud, or coarse surface tire roar, because those are short, high-energy impacts an algorithm can't predict fast enough to cancel. That's exactly the noise a £45,000 buyer expects a dense, well-insulated cabin to swallow on its own, without a speaker doing the installation's job after the fact. Item 7 is the paint, and almost nobody clocks this one at point of sale because it's invisible until the car's a few years old. Total paint system thickness has dropped from 130 to 150 microns in the early 2000s to 90 to 110 microns today, with the protective clear coat alone shrinking from 55 microns to roughly 44. Thinner layers use less raw materials and, more importantly, cure faster in the paint booth, a direct cut to both energy cost and the time a car sits on the line, multiplied across every single unit a factory produces. Modern water-based paints, brought in to meet VOC environmental limits, are also inherently softer in their first few years than the solvent-based systems they replaced. The result is a modern car that picks up stone chips, swirl marks, and bird etching noticeably faster than the one built 15 years ago. And it's why paint protection film has gone from a track day extra to something owners of ordinary premium hatchbacks now budget thousands of pounds for on day one, just to keep the factory finish looking the way it did in the showroom. Item 8 is the spare wheel, or rather its absence. A 17-inch alloy and tyre costs a manufacturer around £100 to supply and weighs about 20 kilograms, taking up boot space a designer would rather sell as advertised capacity. The emergency sealant and compressor kit that replaced it in most boots cost the manufacturer under 20 quid. That's roughly £94 saved per car on that part alone, plus a fuel economy benefit from the lost weight that quietly helps the manufacturer's fleet average CO2 figures, which, past a certain threshold, avoids a separate regulatory fine entirely. For the owner, none of that shows up until the day it matters. A sidewall tear or a large puncture makes the kit completely useless. It's a tow truck call-out, full stop, on a motorway hard shoulder rather than a 15-minute wheel change. Even where the sealant does work, it ruins the tyre permanently. A minor puncture that would once have been patched for 20 quid now means a full replacement tyre, every time, because there's nothing left to patch once the sealant's set. Item 9 is the one genuine exception to this pattern. And it's worth ending on because it shows the real motive more clearly than any of the others. Electric power steering costs more to build than the old hydraulic setup, 18 to 30% more, with a premium EPS module running $450 to $650 per unit. Manufacturers fitted it anyways, because it deletes the belt-driven pump, the fluid reservoir, and the hoses from the assembly line. Improves fuel economy by 2 to 6% since the motor only draws power when the wheel is actually turning. And this is the part that matters. It's a hard prerequisite for lane keeping, automated parking, and every other ADAS feature the manufacturer wants to sell as a software upsell later. It costs more upfront and still makes the company more money, because it opens a second revenue stream the hydraulic system never could. Every lane keep, adaptive cruise, and self-parking package sold as a paid option or software unlock downstream needs this part fitted first. The trade-off lands with the driver as numb, disconnected feedback through the wheel, the one sensation older drivers consistently say they missed most, and the one item on this list where the manufacturer spent more money specifically to be able to charge you twice. When we covered the features manufacturers quietly removed then brought back once the backlash proved too loud, this is the other half of that story. Those were reversals, forced by owners who noticed and complained loudly enough to matter. These 9 haven't been reversed, because deleting them made the balance sheet better twice over, once on the assembly line, and again later when the part fails and the owner pays to put it right. JD Power's own dependability data backs that up at scale, not anecdote. Infotainment complaints on 3-year-old cars now sit at 56.7 problems per 100 vehicles, the worst category by a wide margin, with interior trim and exterior fit close behind it. None of this means the car in your driveway is worthless. It means the price on the windscreen stopped being an honest measure of what's actually inside a long time ago, and the only people who've been tracking the gap properly are engineering teardown firms selling that data to investors, not to drivers. Which one of these 9 hit you the hardest on your own car? The door card that started creaking in month 1? Or the headlight quote that made you check you'd read it right? Tell me in the comments, because that's usually where the next one of these starts.